Except where them haters, where them hoes, where them throws, you know what I'm saying?
This media review is about the Managing Violence podcast by Joe Saunders. I'm going to put a link to it below at Stitcher.com. This is one of the best podcasts I've ever seen in a while. He, like Mark MacYoung has written down and he has put into a podcast all the quote unquote street smart things that are not written down, the things that you don't get to learn inside of the dojo or dojang or kun or the boxing gym. People like Joe Saunders have codified it and given it to you in a format that's going to be very useful for those of us who are regular people who don't have to deal with violence every day. One thing I really like about his podcast, especially in the first few episodes, what he's saying to me leads credence to the method of martial arts I've put together. Basically, he talks about how judo gave him the ability to deal with somebody rustling him around as not cooperating. And of course, the striking arts helped him learn how to deal with being struck. So one thing that you really get from the grappling arts, and this was not originally my idea, I actually got this from a sensei named Van Canna. This was way back in the day. And during Internet 1.0, it was on the Weichi Ryu forums. And he talked about how striking, yes, is more than likely more applicable to a self-defense situation or some type of grapple strike blend. But you don't get the feeling of panic and the tactile feeling that you really need to have that type of hard aerobic endurance, which is really anaerobic endurance, like you get when you're in a grappling match. So that's why if you spend time in your taekwondos and in your judos, to me, that's about the best preparation a civilian can get going between those two types of environments and then dip your head in boxing like I did. That's the best blend of environments that you could get without actually having to get into a real fight. Now, not that I think MMA is bad, but I would do all three of those, and if I was still young, I would do taekwondo, judo, boxing, exposure to all those, and then go get an MMA. Because if I, as a regular person, to come as close as you can to violence without actually having to get into, where you might get shot or stabbed. Because, and he says this, and Joe Saunders says this in the Managing Violence podcast, MMA is still controlled. There's still a ref there. There's still a thing of, well, this thing is only going to go so far. So, what are you going, at the back of your mind, you don't quite have those stakes. But if you rotate around to a few different styles, you still got to pick your main thing that's going to be your bread and butter, okay? You still need to get a black belt in something, in my opinion. That's something that Joe Saunders disagrees with. But that's what I think. I think us regular people who aren't going to be dealing with violence on a regular basis, I think we should get a black belt in something. You have your primary, you expose yourself to a bunch of different things in addition to the upper levels of your main style. You take that and you put on top of it the type of information that you get from things like the Managing Violence podcast, reading books by people like Mark MacYoung, reading books by, I think the guy's name is Chris Wilder, reading those type of books. Talk to different people. Talk to cops. Talk to people in law enforcement. Talk to people who deal with mental health issues, who are mental health practitioners, who have to restrain people in prisons or, mental health institutions. And just, some people who had to grow up in unfortunate environments, live in unfortunate environments. You do all that and you make good moral choices in your life, you stand a pretty good chance of being able to handle yourself if you find yourself in some type of self-defense situation. So please check out the Managing Violence podcast. There are only minor points that I tend to disagree with, and I'm not going to talk about it here. I'll put those in other videos. But that being said, I still think that podcast is gold. I still think it's worth your time. And I think that even if you have a lot of what I call violence experience, you will still get something from listening to this podcast. And I hope I don't get a copyright strike, but if I do, hey. We'll just close with some of the theme music from the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Managing Violence Podcast, where we talk all things self-defense, aggression management, and violence prevention. Is a violence management specialist and the founder of Progressive Defense. Jokes on this.
So go check it out. I don't know him. He doesn't know me. I get nothing for this. I'm just telling you the truth. Listen to the stuff, implement it, and if you're an instructor, see how you can distill it down to your students. So thanks for watching this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this with people who like to talk about the martial arts. And peace.